But then if, they just go to reconciliation, right? We get it all figured out. And I don't know. I don't know. I was going to say the odds are in our favor, but given that we were wrong before this, I just don't know. I won't even speculate.
We are the Armed Attorneys. Today we're coming to you with some breaking news with regard to short-barreled firearms, short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, suppressors. Are they getting taken out of the NFA? There's a lot going on in D.C. right now. We're keeping our ear to the ground. We're going to give you the latest on all of this. But before we begin, show your support for the Second Amendment by hitting that like button. And quick sponsor today from our friends over at Artorias.
Success is about timing, insight, advantage, and knowing what others don't until it's too late. Introducing SITREP, powered by Artorias, the world's fastest intelligence alert platform. Powered by AI, fed by real-time open source intelligence, trusted by those who can't afford to be wrong.
Missile launches, political crises, border crossings, supply chain sabotage. You'll know before the wires do, before governments do, before it hits the headlines. C-suite leaders, hedge fund managers, intelligence experts, they're not waiting for tomorrow's news. Neither should you. SITREP, precision alerts, zero lag, total awareness. Download SITREP by Artorias and make every second count.
And I'll just start out and say that we were wrong. Because I think we were doing a live and someone was like, are suppressors ever going to come out of the NFA list? Is the Hearing Protection Act going to pass? And we were like, no, dog. Like maybe judicially through the courts, suppressors come out and then we start taking it down that way. But there's no way that Congress does anything rational, reasonable,
nothing ever happens
or anything at all. Right. So we were just like, no, never in my wildest dreams did I think we would do something to dismantle parts of the NFA in the budget bill.
Yeah, not from the Congress. And all right, to give a little bit of background, because I think, and ultimately what we want you to do, I'm going to go ahead and tell you now. You need to call the Congressional Switchboard, 202-224-3121. Ask to speak to your representative, your senator. Obviously, we want the Hearing Protection Act, the Short Act, and this one big, beautiful bill, this reconciliation bill, our budget bill, once it goes through reconciliation, there might be a chance these things end up in here. And so, part of this is the Congress doesn't pass legislation anymore.
No.
And so,
except for budgets, they have to do a budget.
Yeah, well, I'll say, and God bless Texas for this. We have a single subject. We have really strict germaneness rules. So, each individual issue is making its way through our legislature.
Yeah, there's no pork.
Yeah,
we don't have pork.
Yeah, we really don't. Yeah. And so, Congress, the only way they can get things done
is all pork.
It's all pork. And so, we're looking at H.R. 1. This is our one big, beautiful bill. And like I said, obviously we want you to contact your representatives. We want this stuff in there. But I think it's important for folks to understand how this process works, because I've seen a lot of calls to action. Hey, go do this. But I want you to know how it works. I hate doing something when I don't understand why I'm doing it. So, I think that's important.
Right. So this is, we have to pass a budget. Congress has a tendency right now to pass short-term budgets. That's why, every year, if we're lucky, every couple months, if we're not, everybody's sweating about whether the government's going to shut down. And it's because the Congress can barely keep the government open with budgets. And so we are ready to pass a budget bill again. And, there's lots of, you've heard the one big, beautiful bill. So what President Trump has called for is for essentially the budget and for a extension of the Trump tax cuts and hopefully making them permanent, for lots of issues on the border and, I think just government reform generally, to all be roped into this budget bill. That's why it is the one big, beautiful bill, and that's what they're working on. But boy, I didn't think it would be this beautiful.
Yeah, so, first they have their proposed bill. Mm-hmm. It gets chunks of this get split up and sent to committees. Taxation, we're looking at Ways and Means.
Yes.
Sometimes we're looking at Rules Committees. There's a lot of different moving parts. You don't necessarily need to know all that background, but there is an appetite to include the Hearing Protection Act and the Short Act in the big, beautiful budget bill.
Yeah.
The NFA, the tax stamp might be the thing that saves all this.
The fact that they've been taxing a fundamental right might be the thing that brings it down, because that's what gets it into the budget bill.
Yeah, and that's because we have this thing called the Byrd Rule, which you can't, create new agencies necessarily, can't, add in policy into the budget. This is supposed to be, numb crunching, right? Well, now that this thing has a tax on it, that you have to jump through these kind of regulatory hoops, tax attached to it. I think it's going to be germane to this budget bill, and so
Yeah.
maybe the tax is what saves us.
Right. Well, and the other thing, other than like having a federal budget is incredibly important and we have to, the other thing that saves it and that makes this doable, I mean, for gun law to pass this Congress, what makes this doable is that the budget bill is not subject to filibuster
Yep.
in the Senate.
Yeah, it's kind of fast tracked.
It's fast tracked, meaning 51 votes in the Senate. That's all you need, as opposed to 60 to overcome a filibuster. The Republicans don't have 60 votes in the Senate,
No.
but we do have 51.
Yeah. Well, and maybe depending on who's counting, maybe we have 53.
Yeah, as many as 53, but
Yeah, as
still,
many, yeah.
that's what we need.
So
We got a little wiggle room.
big beautiful bill sent out to the committees to do some work on it. Sticking this stuff in there. We have Byrd Rule, so we got taxation under control. We got this fast track in the Senate. Well, even if these things don't make it into the committee, so there's one amendment we wanted to look at right now. What we see so far is, yes, it appears that the Hearing Protection Act is in there. The Short Act, haven't seen language on it yet, but it could be very shortly. Again, this is a very
people are saying,
dynamic situation. Well, all right, once this thing passes, it's still not going to be identical versions in each chamber, and there is still time.
yes, correct. So, but then if, they just go to reconciliation, right? We get it all figured out. And I think, I don't know. I don't know. I was going to say the odds are in our favor, but given that we were wrong before this, I just don't know. I won't even speculate.
Well, and just the folks we're talking to, I'm sure y'all have seen some other posts about this or social media. It appears that, we are making significant progress on the Hearing Protection Act. That seems like it's going to be there. The Short Act, uphill battle, but it's not over. We have this reconciliation process.
Right. So, I mean, let's say that it does pass with either one or both, right? Suppressors or our short barrel firearms. What does that mean going forward? What does it mean for people who already own NFA items, do you think?
Well, I mean, they're not, I guess, the tax stamp, I would equate
this is where we speculate wildly.
Yeah, I would equate it to the same folks who registered their braced pistols and then these things weren't regulated anymore under the NFA. What happened to those folks? I imagine it'd be the same.
Sure, but I would definitely say, first of all, the federal government's not going to return any of your money.
Sure.
So what you paid for your tax stamp just is what it is. But I think that is a new animal for probably the ATF I would imagine that sort of comes more through policy and rulemaking about what happens to
those records,
right? Because ideally, how big do they make shredders? We just have a really big incinerator somewhere and just feed it all in, because ideally all the records just go away. Yeah. Now, will that really happen? Probably not. But I would say for certain, let's hope going forward. And of course, these things, they always time them out. And I'm sure part of the deal will be, well, this doesn't happen until 2027, 2028, but at some point going forward, I would think these are just 4473 items.
Well, and
like anything else.
We have some hope. There has been some language floated out about making this retroactive to 2015. We'll see what happens with all this. We're monitoring the situation very closely, but we hope you enjoyed this discussion. If you did, consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and help us fight the anti-2A algorithm by sharing this video.
And leave us a question and comment below, and go sign up for SITREP. Thank you, Artorias, for sponsoring the show. Until next time, we're the Armed Attorneys.